Confined space, safety. Definition of confined space is an area large enough to enter and work, has limited means of entry and exit. Not designed for continuous human occupancy. Characteristics of confined space: contains or has a potential to cause hazardous atmospheres. Contains a material that has a potential for engulfing the entrant. Has an internal configuration such that an entrant could be trapped or asphyxiated. Contains any other serious recognized hazard. Hazardous atmosphere, an atmosphere that may expose employees to the risk of death, incapacitation, impairment of ability for self-rescue, unaided injury, or acute illness from one or more of the following causes: flammable gas, or mist in excess of 10% of its LEL. Airborne combustible, dust at a concentration that meets or exceeds its LEL. Atmospheric oxygen concentration below 20 to 23.5%. Any other atmospheric condition that is immediately dangerous to life and health. Examples of confined space: tanks, saws, pits. Potential hazards in confined space: oxygen deficiency, oxygen, enriched atmospheres, combustible and flammable materials, toxic gases and vapors, physical hazards, electrical hazards. Oxygen deficiency. Oxygen level below 20%. Causes asphyxiation, for example, cannot breathe due to lack of oxygen. Gases that displaces oxygen, such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen, argon, and carbon monoxide, which prevents the body from using the oxygen. Oxygen enriched atmospheres. Oxygen level is greater than 23.5%. Sources are welding and oxygen gas lines. Increases fire or explosion hazard. Never use oxygen to ventilate confined space. Combustible and flammable materials. Some examples are compressed air, propane, and welding gases. Toxic gases and vapors. Most common include carbon monoxide, CO, hydrogen sulfide, H2S, methane, CH4. Physical hazards: falling, tripping, moving parts, and engulfment. Electrical hazards: electrocution, electric shock, and sparks. Requirements of confined space. Confined Space Entry Supervisor, CSES, Confined Space Entry Plan. Standby Man. Confined Space Entry Checklist. Confined Space Entry Log. Work Permit requirements as per GI 2.100. Barricades and warning signs. Atmospheric gas testing. PPE requirements. Confined Space Entry Plan. Shall include scope of work. Results of the hazard evaluation, for example. Potential hazards in confined space, location, and method of isolation. Procedure for cleaning, flushing, and purging. Access and egress requirements. Pedestrian, vehicle, and other barriers necessary. Fall protection plans. Types and frequency of atmospheric testing. Types of PPE required. Emergency rescue procedures. Work permit requirements. Control provisions. Each designated confined space entry point shall be evaluated to ensure entrants can safely enter and exit the confined space. Designated entry points shall not be blocked or obstructed with equipment while entrants are inside the space, for example, air cooling and ventilation, hoses blocking an entry point. The completed work permits, for example, confined space, entry, hot work, confined space, warning signs, and barricades shall be posted outside the confined space to notify personnel that a confined space entry is in progress and to prohibit entry by unauthorized personnel. Prior to entry, chemical and physical hazards shall be eliminated or controlled by one or more of the following methods: equipment isolation, for example, lockout tagout, draining, water washing, steam cleaning, purging, and etc. Mechanical ventilation, for example, air movers, shall be used to ensure removal of all hazardous airborne contaminants in confined spaces where a hazardous atmosphere exists or could develop during the course of planned work. Ignition sources shall be eliminated or controlled within a confined space if ignition sources are present, for example, sparks or open flames. A hot work permit shall be issued, and periodic gas tests or continual gas monitoring as applicable. Electrical equipment, including lighting, used in an electrically classified area, shall be Underwriters Laboratories, UL, listed. Factory Mutual, FM, approved, or equivalent. Residual current devices, RCDs, including ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, and earth leak current breakers, ELCBs, shall be utilized on all electrical-powered equipment, including portable lighting, used inside a confined space, regardless of the electrical classification of the space. A standby man shall be assigned by the CSCS at each designated entry point and shall continuously monitor the confined space entry while personnel are inside the confined space. In certain situations, for example, multiple entry-exit points, more than one confined space, standby man is required. Standby men shall be provided with adequate means of communication, for example, two-way radio, to ensure continuous communication with entrants and with the proper personnel, for example, CSCS, rescue team, in event of an emergency, rescue team, in event of an emergency. Rescue provisions. At least one fire extinguisher, 30 pounds, shall be provided near each designated confined space entry point, if the space is within process equipment, for example, vessel, column, tank, or where combustible or flammable material may be present, including residue. Carbon dioxide, CO2, type fire extinguishers, shall not be used inside enclosed confined spaces. To facilitate non-entry rescue, retrieval systems, or methods shall be used, whenever an entrant enters an enclosed confined space that requires vertical entry, for example, inside a vessel, column, tank, valve box, sump pit, lift station, unless the retrieval equipment would increase the overall risk of entry, or would not contribute to the rescue of the entrant. A retrieval system is the equipment, including a retrieval line, full body harness, and a lifting device, used for non-entry rescue of persons from vertical confined spaces. Retrieval systems shall meet the following requirements. Each entrant shall wear a full body harness with a retrieval line attached at the center of the entrant's back near shoulder level or above the entrant's head. The other end of the retrieval line shall be attached to a mechanical device, for example, winch attached to a tripod, so that rescue can begin as soon as the confined space standby man becomes aware that rescue is necessary. Confined space entry checklist. Confined space entry log. Confined space entry requirements table. Work permit requirements as per GI 2.100. Completed work permits, for example, confined space entry hot work permit, shall be taken prior to commencement. Barricades and warning signs shall be posted outside the confined space to notify the personnel that a confined space is in progress and prohibit entry by unauthorized personnel. Atmospheric gas testing. Atmospheric gas testing within the confined space shall include but not limited to testing for oxygen, O2, flammable mixtures, LEL, toxic gases, for example, H2S, and CO. Atmospheric testing shall be performed prior to entry, after breaks, or if there is a reason that the condition is changed, or at a periodic intervals, for example, every 2 hours. Shall be conducted by a certified gas tester as per GI 2.709. Multi-gas monitors. Oxygen, minute 19.5% to max 23.5%, CO, alarm equals 35 ppm, combustible. Alarm equals 10% LEL, H2S, alarm equals 10 ppm. Oxygen, 20.9% equals normal. 15% to 19% equals decreased stability at strenuous work and breathing difficulties. People with coronary, pulmonary, or circulation difficulties. 10% to 12% equals respiration rate increases. Loss of judgment, lips turn blue. 8% to 10% equals mental failure, ashen complexion. Nausea. 6% to 8% equals fatal at 8 minutes, 50% fatal at 6 minutes, treatment required. For recovery at 4 to 5 minutes. 4% to 6% equals coma within 40 seconds, convulsions. Ceased respiration, followed by death. Carbon monoxide, CO, 35 ppm equals alarm level, permissible over 8 hours. 200 ppm equals slight headache after 3 hours. 600 ppm equals severe headache, discomfort at 1 hour. 2000 ppm equals confusion, headache, nausea at 2 hours, 2500 ppm equals all of the above with palpitation of the heart and unconsciousness at 30 minutes. 4000 ppm equals death under 1 hour. Hydrogen sulfide, H2S, 10 ppm equals alarm level, permissible exposure limit. 15 ppm equals short-term exposure limit at 15 minutes. 50 to 100 ppm equals mild eye irritation. Loss of sense of smell, mild respiratory irritation at 1 hour. 200 to 300 ppm equals pronounced eye irritation. Marked respiratory irritation. 500 to 700 ppm equals unconsciousness leading to death within 1 hour. 1000 ppm equals death within minutes. Lower explosive limit, LEL.